Be that guy. Let me tell you something real. Most people settle, they fold, they crumble under pressure. They chase comfort like it's gold, like it'll save them from the harsh reality that life does not care about your excuses, your feelings, or your past. But there's always one guy in the corner, quiet, focused, relentless, while everyone else is crying about how hard it is. He's grinding, he's not asking for pity, he's asking for reps. He's not looking for shortcuts. He's looking for war. Be that guy. Be the guy who doesn't flinch when the storm hits. Be the guy who shows up when everyone else calls out. Be the guy who turns pain into fuel. Be the guy who doesn't care what the crowd says. He's got a mission and he's ready to bleed for it. You see, the world doesn't need another weak man hiding behind excuses. The world needs warriors, dogs, monsters, men of discipline. The kind of man who's forged in fire and sharpened through suffering. You want respect, earn it. You want to be remembered, bleed for it. You want to change your life, be that guy. The guy who chooses the hard road every damn time. Be the guy who chooses pain over comfort. 700 words, let me break it down for you. Comfort is the enemy. It's the silent killer of discipline. The disease that spreads while you sleep in, skip workouts, and justify laziness with weak-ass excuses. Comfort tells you to take the elevator instead of the stairs. It whispers, you've done enough today, and most people, they listen, they curl up in its arms and die a slow, soft death, unfulfilled, untested, unnoticed, but not you. You've got to flip the script and start chasing the pain. I'm talking about intentional suffering, voluntary struggle. You've got to become the man who chooses the hard route every single time, not because it's fun, but because it's where growth lives. You think champions are made on cruise control. Hell no, they're made in the trenches, in the darkness, in the lonely hours when everyone else is sleeping, and you're in the gym, on the road, or face down in sweat refusing to give up. Pain is the gateway to power. It forges men, it reveals who's real and who's fake, who's built for something greater and who's just talking. Every time you avoid pain, you choose weakness, but every time you lean into it, you earn a piece of yourself that no one can take. Start doing things that suck. Wake up before your alarm. Train when you're sore. Study when your brain is fried. Push when every cell in your body is screaming to stop. This isn't about building muscle, it's about building armor. A mindset that doesn't break, a will that doesn't bend. You've got to rewire yourself so that pain doesn't scare you. It fuels you, and understand this. Comfort lies to you. It says you're okay when you're not. It says you deserve rest when you haven't earned it. It says tomorrow will be better. But there is no tomorrow for people who keep putting things off. The only time is now. The only way out is through. And the only man who wins is the one who runs headfirst into the fire while everyone else is looking for shade. You want to stand out, choose pain. You want to be uncommon among uncommon men, choose pain. You want to build a legacy, choose pain, not once, not twice, every damn day. Be the guy who looks in the mirror and says, let's suffer today. Be the guy who takes on more than he thinks he can handle just to prove that he can. Be the guy who doesn't need motivation because he's driven by something deeper, something brutal, something primal. You don't need easy, you need war, and when the pain hits, when your lungs are burning, your legs are shaking, and your mind is begging to quit, you smile. Because that pain, that's your progress report, that's your battle cry, that's the moment most people break. And you're not most people, you're that guy. You're the one who gets stronger when others get soft. You're the one who becomes a machine in the middle of hell. You're the one who chooses to suffer, so you can one day say, I didn't skip a damn step. I earned this. Be that guy. Be the guy who shows up when others quit. Let's get one thing straight. Talk is cheap. Anyone can be motivated for a day. Anyone can post a quote. Hit the gym once, or grind when life's going smooth. But the moment it gets hard, the moment the world pushes back, they fold, they vanish. They quit, but not you. You show up, not just on the good days, not just when it's easy, but when it's brutal. When your body aches, your mind's in chaos, and everything inside you says, just stay down. That's when the real ones rise. That's when legends are born. That's when you separate from the pack. You see, 99% of people can't handle consistent suffering. They'll go hard for a week, then vanish for a month. They only show up when it's sunny, when the path is clear, when they feel ready. But life doesn't wait for readiness. Life punishes the unprepared, and the only antidote is this: show up anyway. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Success doesn't care about your excuses. And greatness, it sure as hell doesn't hand out trophies to people who skip practice because they're tired. The guys who win, the ones who change their lives and everyone else is around them, they show up when it's raining, when it's cold, when they're broken, when they're scared. You want to be that guy, then be the one who laces up when your legs feel like concrete. Be the one who still makes the call, still sends the email, still hits the run, still studies, still builds. Even when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one gives a damn. Because here's the truth, you're not always going to feel like it. There will be mornings where you hate the process, nights where you want to scream, days where quitting looks like the smartest thing on the menu. That's the test, that's the fork in the road, and that's when you decide if you're just another loudmouth, or that guy, the guy who doesn't disappear, the guy who doesn't break, the guy who stands tall in a world of weak men and says, I don't care how I feel, I've got a standard to live by. You don't need applause, you don't need motivation, you don't even need support. You need one thing: commitment, ruthless, uncompromising commitment to the process, to the mission, to the pain. You show up because you said you would. And your word, it's iron, it's law, it's your identity. When your friends are skipping workouts, skipping practice, skipping life, you grind harder. When your coworkers are clocking out early, you stay in the fight. When others get discouraged, you get laser focused. Because every day you show up when others don't, you widen the gap, you pull ahead, you become undeniable. You become that guy people hate because they can't understand how you keep going. But they'll never know the suffering you've endured, the loneliness, the silence, the demons you've beaten every morning just to stay in the game. Showing up isn't glamorous, it's not sexy. It's dirty, it's painful, it's repetitive. But it's also the most dangerous weapon a man can carry, because the world doesn't know what to do with someone who refuses to disappear. So be that guy, be the one who doesn't miss, be the one they count out and then can't ignore. Be the one who stays when everyone else leaves. Be the guy who shows up, and keeps showing up until showing up is just who the hell you are. Be that guy. Be the guy who outworks everyone you want to dominate. You want to rise above average, then it's simple. Outwork everyone. That's the code. That's the mindset. No shortcuts. No silver spoon. Just straight up savage work ethic every damn day, because talent. It's nothing without obsession. Smarts. Useless if you're lazy. Potential. Wasted if you're soft. The truth is, the man who grinds harder, longer, and more consistently than anyone else is the one who can't be stopped. You want results: stack more hours, stack more suffering, stack more blood, sweat, and isolation than anyone around you. And I'm not talking about doing what's enough. I'm talking about doing what's insane. I'm talking about making your efforts so relentless, so undeniable, that it doesn't matter who's more talented, because they'll never outlast you. Most people dabble. They give 60%, maybe 80% on a good day. And they think they're grinding. Nah, they're tourists. They clock in just enough to feel good, then quit the moment it's uncomfortable. But you live in that uncomfortable zone. You breathe discomfort. You set the alarm earlier than anyone else. You stay longer. You push further because deep down, you're not okay with being average. You're at war with the ordinary. And understand this, the grind is lonely. There's no crowd at 4 a.m. There's no applause when you're doing extra reps, reading that extra page, or running that extra mile when your knees are shot and your lungs are on fire. That's where most people bow out. But you go harder because you don't train for recognition. You train for domination. You train for separation. You train so that when life tests you, you already know the answer. I've been through worse. Your workload is your confidence. Your suffering is your superpower. Your discipline is your identity. You want to beat everyone in the room, be willing to do what no one else will, stay in the gym until it's empty, study longer than your classmates, work more hours than your competition, bleed more, sweat more, and sacrifice more. You'll start to notice something. The world clears a path for those who refuse to be outworked. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday and annihilate that version, then do it again tomorrow. Make progress a requirement, not a goal. Make pain part of the process, because when others are asleep, partying, relaxing, you'll be building. And when the moment comes, when it's time to perform, to lead, to conquer, you won't be nervous, you'll be ready, because you earned it in the dark. Here's the brutal truth. If you're not obsessed with being better, someone else is. Someone out there is working while you hesitate, training while you complain, sacrificing while you settle. So make a choice. Either become the hardest worker in the room, or accept that someone hungrier will take everything you could have had. Be that guy, the guy who goes the extra mile, then adds 5 more, the guy who outlasts, outtrains, bleeds the field, the guy who treats every day like a battle for his life, because that's exactly what it is. Your legacy, your dreams, your self-respect are all on the line. When people look at you, they should see obsession, discipline, madness. They should feel your energy before you even speak. Because that's what happens when your work ethic becomes your identity. You don't just inspire, you intimidate. And the best part, it's all within your control. You don't need permission to outwork people. You don't need luck, you don't need talent, you just need a decision, a savage decision to show up, grind, and repeat. So next time you're tired, next time you're doubting, next time you think, maybe I've done enough, ask yourself, have I outworked everyone? Have I given everything I've got? If the answer is no, get back in the fight. And if the answer is yes, get ready to do it again. Because you're that guy, and that guy, he never stops. Be the guy who never breaks his word in a world full of flaky men, soft talkers, and hollow promises. There's one trait that separates the strong from the weak. Your word. Let me say it louder for the ones in the back. Your word is your contract. Your word is your identity. It's not just something you say to sound good. It's something you live, breathe, and stand on even when it hurts like hell. Most people, they say they'll show up, but they don't. They say they're gonna change, but they won't. They talk about goals, plans, visions, but they crumble when it's time to execute. That can't be you. You've got to be the kind of man who doesn't need reminders, deadlines, or second chances. You've got to be the one who says, if I said I'll do it, it's already done. No debate, no excuses, no delay. Be the guy who never breaks his word, especially to himself, because here's the truth. If you can't trust yourself, you'll never win. You'll never break through. You'll never become what you were meant to be. When you say, I'm gonna wake up at 5, and then hit snooze, that's not just laziness, that's self-betrayal. When you say, I'm gonna train every day, and skip out when it's raining or you're tired, that's not a schedule conflict, that's a crack in your armor. Every time you break your word, you weaken your character. Every time you flinch on a promise, you train yourself to settle. And every time you lie to yourself, you invite weakness to take over your life. But when you hold the line, when you follow through no matter how hard it gets, you become a weapon, a force, a man people fear, respect, and follow. Because they know your word means something. It's solid. It's steel. Start small if you have to. Say you'll train. Say you'll read. Say you'll eat clean. Don't touch that garbage. Stack wins. Stack discipline. Stack integrity. That's how trust is built. Not by what you say, but by what you do when no one's watching. You want to level up, then stop negotiating with yourself. Make your word law. Treat it like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Your word is what builds confidence. It's what builds momentum. It's what builds a life that's unshakable. People ask, how do I become more confident? Simple. Keep your promises every single time. Confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from proof. From waking up day after day knowing that you don't break. That no matter how painful, how inconvenient, or how hard it is, you finish what you start. And the moment you adopt this mindset, you become dangerous. Because most men are unreliable. Most men are inconsistent. Most men say one thing and do another, but not you. You're that guy, the guy whose handshake is a contract, the guy whose goals aren't wishes, they're guarantees, the guy who says, I got you, and delivers every time without fail. You want to build a legacy, then become known as the most dependable man in every room. The guy people lean on when things fall apart. The guy who doesn't flinch when it's time to act. The guy who never, ever, ever breaks his word. And if you fall, you don't make excuses, you don't hide, you own it. You stand back up and fix it. That's the code, that's the standard. You see, your word is your power. Use it wisely, guard it fiercely. And when you say something, back it up with action that roars louder than any words ever could. Be that guy, the guy who can be counted on, the guy who shows up, the guy who says it, means it, and does it. Every single time, be the guy who lives unapologetically hard. Let's get one thing straight. Soft living leads to a hard life, but hard living, that builds warriors. We live in a world that worships comfort, celebrates ease, glorifies shortcuts. Every ad tells you how to hack your way to success, how to lose weight without effort, how to get rich without grinding, how to be balanced without sacrifice. You want the truth? There is no hack, there is no shortcut, there is no balance, there's only hard work, pain, sacrifice, suffering, repetition, and most of all ownership. You either take full control of your life or you hand the wheel over to weakness. Period. But here's where it gets different. You don't just endure the hard life, you live it unapologetically. You don't make excuses for the discipline you carry. You don't water yourself down to fit in. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You wake up every day and you walk like a storm, because everything about your life is earned, never given. Be that guy. Be the guy who doesn't need validation, who doesn't care if people think he's too intense, who doesn't ask for permission to be great, because guess what? Being great offends the average, and you weren't born to blend in with them. You were built to rise, and rising requires war. Most people tiptoe through life afraid of standing out, afraid of failing, afraid of going all in. They call it being realistic. They think playing small is wise, but it's cowardice dressed up as logic. You don't want a life of quiet regret. You want a life of fire, of grind, of purpose, and that only comes when you commit to living hard every single day. Wake up early, train until your hands bleed. Keep promises no matter the cost. Show up when you're sick, tired, or broken. Choose the hard road even when no one's watching. Leave with standards so high that people around you either step up or get left behind. And here's the key, never apologize for it. People will try to shame your grind. They'll call you obsessed, extreme, arrogant. Let them talk. While they're explaining your name, you'll be out building your empire. While they're watching Netflix, you'll be stacking reps. While they're resting on potential, you'll be cashing in results. There's no shame in sacrifice. There's no guilt in choosing excellence. There's no apology in being uncommon. And don't confuse living hard with being reckless. Living hard means being disciplined, intentional, unbreakable. It means you embrace suffering because you know it leads to strength. It means you turn your back on instant gratification and choose long-term greatness. It means you stay hungry even after the win. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. So when life throws punches, you don't just take them. You swing back. When the plan falls apart, you don't fold, you adapt. When the world says slow down, you speed up, because every hardship is fuel, every setback is a rep, every obstacle is a gift wrapped in pain, and you open it with bare hands. Be the guy who makes discipline look dangerous. Be the guy who turns heads without saying a word. Be the guy whose presence alone makes people check their own excuses. And most of all, be the guy who never softens his edge just to fit in. You didn't come this far to blend in. You came to break the mold, to lead, to become something most men are too afraid to chase. So when you walk into a room, walk in like you own it. When you take on a challenge, take it on like it's personal. When you live hard, live loud, and live without apology. Be that guy, be that GU. Why, you've heard the code, you've felt the fire. Now here's the truth, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to carry you to greatness. No one's handing out discipline, resilience, or self-respect. You've got to earn that. You've got to suffer for that. You've got to become that. The world is filled with quitters, with talkers, with soft men playing hard for the camera. But when the lights go out, only a few remain. Only a few are still grinding when it's cold, dark, and lonely. Only a few are still pushing when their bodies are screaming and their minds are begging to stop. Be that guy. Be the guy who doesn't fold under pressure. Be the guy who outworks, outlasts, and outbleeds every name in the room. Be the guy who shows up when everyone else disappears. Be the guy who never breaks his word, especially to himself. Be the guy who walks into hell and doesn't flinch. You weren't born to be average. You weren't built for mediocrity. Deep down, you know it. You can feel it burning. The war is inside you, and it's time to go to battle. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You don't need a crowd. All you need is a reason, a fire, and a relentless refusal to quit. So stand up, get loud, get locked in, and from this moment forward, live with a savage commitment to be that guy. The guy they'll remember, the guy they couldn't stop, the guy who never ran, never begged, never broke. Let the weak fall back, let the excuses die, let the pain come. You're ready for all of it. This is your life. This is your standard. Now be that GUI until your last breath.